Hi, Jennifer Villarreal here. Welcome to the Sales from the Heart Show, the place where business meets heart and soul. And I have two fabulous ladies with me, so we all know the wonderful one and only.
Hi, everyone. Rocio Vallejo here.
And a special guest today.
Hi, this is Nancy Rodriguez.
All right.
Pleasure to be with you, Jennifer, and with Rocio.
So, Nancy, why don't you tell people a little bit about your passion and how you serve the community?
Sure. So I am a mortgage banker. I assist families and people that are interested in home buying. And I provide counseling as well and seminars to individuals that are looking to understand the process of home buying. It can be somewhat complex for a lot of people, especially the first-time home buyers that have never owned a property. And there's a lot of different details that come into play when you purchase. So I assist in the process. I do the financing, and I also do home buyer seminars for everyone that is interested. So that's my passion. I've done it for the last 13 years.
Yeah.
So the market has been changing in the last 7 years or so. And there's a lot of changes with the program, with the government. And I think the community needs to be informed. And
Right.
I love to assist, to inform, and to help people because the more knowledgeable they are, the better decisions that they make.
Right. And you're kind of a mini celebrity out in the market with your shows that you've done and been featured and interviewed on television as well as through Planeta X as well. So do you want to share a little bit of how people can connect with you or find some of these valuable little tips and resources that you give?
Sure. I've done a few interviews and programs. You can go to my Facebook, Nancy Rodriguez. And my name is very unique. It's spelled very differently, Nenci.
So
And,
Nenci.
So it's Nancy with an E and an I. So it's a lot of people remember it for that same reason. And I also work with the nonprofits such as Lucha, such as Spanish Coalition for Housing, such as the Northwest Community Housing in the North Side. And we developed those seminars. So you can also get in contact with me on my personal cell phone number,
Which is
773-330-3824. Let me just say it again, 773-330-3824.
All right. And so, Nancy, when we met, gosh, I think we met through social media initially, right?
Yes, we did.
We were reminiscing about this actually a couple of weeks ago at an event. It's called Women of Faith from Survival to Revival, and you were able to attend that. We're going to share a little bit more about some of the insights that we got from that event, as well as last month in January, right?
January.
In January, we had one as well, and then we have another series coming up next weekend out in Libertyville at Trinell. And we'll share a little bit about that. And rest assured, it will relate to you, more probably so for the ladies this time around. But guys, stick around. There's going to be some really valuable little nuggets as well. So when we met, can you share a little bit? We were talking about this story.
We were. We always mention it because we became friends in Facebook, I believe, right? And I was looking forward to going to a presentation. It was a 3-day event with one of the
Joyce Meyer.
And somehow you were looking to carpool with a couple of girls to go to St. Louis. And funny because I had seen the event and I was so interested in going. And I'm like, I can't go by myself. It's a 5-hour drive. I also have to find some girlfriends to go with. And it happened to be where you posted in Facebook who was interested. And I responded.
Yeah. So we had never met before. I was actually a little cautious because the year before I ended up going on this with somebody who I wasn't as familiar with, and then she invited a friend, and basically, I love you to pieces, you know who you are, but she kind of left me out there. She didn't want to stay anymore.
Oh, no, you were stranded.
I was stranded, but actually it all worked out, and this is what I want to tie back into business. You know, the right people that you're meant to connect with, it will come together effortlessly. We just can't get in that panic state of mind. And you just have to be resourceful. So I reached out to somebody who I knew somebody at the conference. He passed along her number. We met, we chatted, and she was really high energy. But I figured, I'm just going to trust this. And she said, you know what, I'll bring you back and you can stay with me here for the next day. And it worked out. And you know what, I didn't get upset with the other two girls that didn't want to be there. It wasn't for them at the moment, but I also didn't let it take me away. So don't let people, discourage you or pull you away from how you want to show up, what you want to learn, what you want to get out of things. Because we get faced with this all the time. Rocio, we talked about this in another show where our significant other can pull us away, or loved ones, as much as they care and they love us, they can distract us as well.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
it was a great experience, and it's interesting what you're mentioning because aside from networking, it ended up being also an opportunity to network, to talk about what we do and how we can partner up, help each other in business. Because the rest of the ladies that attended also were somehow, in one way or another, we were able to share or learn from each other in a business-wise manner. But at the same time, we had the opportunity to be in a 3-day event where you kind of relaxed and also get to know each other more personally. Sometimes that's very important in business. You build relationships based on getting to know each other.
Yeah, there were a lot of laughs, a lot of fun moments in the car ride on the way there, even at the hotel. Somehow I ended up sleeping on the floor. Why I didn't ask for a cot? I have no idea.
Really?
And she's the one.
Slept on the floor.
That's so true. And you were the one that did the reservation for the hotel. She's like, oh,
and we got such a great deal due to another person who I know. So the connections and the hookup, I think we paid like $11 total each person or something crazy. It was ridiculously low price. It was a nice place. We were a little off the strip from, in the heart of St. Louis. But it was fun. I probably wouldn't do it that way again. My back would thank me for not doing that. But it was a good time. So you ended up meeting Jessica Barrera, who's a realtor in Westtown, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you establish more of a friendship from that relationship, or did you know her prior?
No, I knew her from prior to the event, but I think that particular 3-day seminar, I think it pretty much solidified our friendship, and we're now good friends, and we're also colleagues. She's in the real estate industry, so am I. So it worked out very well, and she's doing fantastic. I think. Obviously, I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but I think that was a great starting point. She was in the middle of opening her own real estate, so I think it worked out well. And sometimes you just have to let things flow.
Right.
I think that's part of life, letting things flow, and they come into play at the right time, the right moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that everything in that experience, in that event, the people, the moment, the timing was perfect.
It was. We met up with Martha Dominguez, so that was the first time you met her, right?
Yes.
And Monica Radusky. And we just had a blast. And I didn't know Jessica. I didn't know you. I knew the other two girls, so we just blended together. So we'll have to keep you posted on the next conference that comes up. We have one actually here locally. It's called the Love Tour by Women of Faith. And so if you want to find out how you can get discounted tickets and go with our group, feel free to contact me. The best way to do that, I think it's been working out really well, is just send me a text or give me a call to 847-903-3983. Of course, you can always send an email as well, Jennifer@salesfromtheheart.com. So, yeah, I think what you mentioned here about just letting it flow effortlessly, showing up and just asking for that guidance, right? And whatever that is for you, we acknowledge God and Jesus Christ here, but whatever it is for you, and I think that's really how you and I ended up establishing our relationship as well, right?
Right, yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can share more.
Can I? I'm just listening right now. I will.
I know it's usually just
tend to
you
talk
and I.
a lot, yeah, but it's okay.
Well, we're going to have your little spotlight too. Rocio is going to share with us how her Midnight Hustler event went. And that was just last night, and that's the second series. So why don't we actually go into that a little bit now, and then we're going to tie in the Women of Faith event and how that relates and plays out in our life. So
Okay. So actually, it was, the second workshop, and it went really, really well.
So who's it geared towards?
Creative business entrepreneurs.
creative business entrepreneurs that are maybe in between launching their business. So they're doing the midnight hustle, which means what?
The midnight hustle means you either have a daytime job or you work in the evening, but you're balancing the two. You're trying to grow your business and establish who you are, and but you still have to hold on to that side gig. So that's where the midnight hustle kind of came from.
And what do you find are some of the common challenges that people face when they're caught in between that midnight hustle?
I think a lot of people are still in a space where they're still kind of living in fear. They don't want to lose that security of that full-time or part-time gig, but then they find themselves overwhelmed and frustrated, not only by their schedule, but with just knowing that they really want to focus their time and their attention on their business, but they are finding that they're still just holding on to that job. And sometimes we need that, and that's okay, but I think something that I've learned and I kind of have done for myself in my business is giving yourself a time frame. How long do I plan on staying at this company? When do I finally plan on just jumping in and doing it? So it went really well. Yesterday's main topic, we touched on a couple of things, but yesterday's main topic was our number one BS excuse, which I ain't got no time, right? It's either
The number one BS excuse
yes,
is
I don't have time,
Mhm.
or second is I don't have any money, or I need more money. But it went really well. So, we addressed what the feelings and the emotions that come up for people when they talk about not having time or having too much time and feeling discouraged and disappointed with themselves because they're not using that time wisely.
So what are some of the tips that people can begin to implement when they feel overwhelmed, when they feel like they just don't have enough hours in the day? I mean, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. I mean, you've heard me say this over and over, there's no such thing as time management. It's more about managing our behaviors, right?
That's exactly what it is.
So what kind of tips did you give them to be able to still pursue what it is in their heart, what they are uniquely designed to do? We all have these unique blessings and these gifts to share with other people. So
I think one of the main ones is you have to schedule it. You have to write it down. You have to put it down on your schedule. If it's not on your schedule, you're not going to make it a point to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was you have to get everything. Sometimes we have so much going on in our heads. And I say this all the time. You have to be fair to yourself. You have to write it down. You have to write down everything that's on your mind, get it on paper, and then start to categorize when you want to accomplish these things, these goals, these things that you want to do for your business, the things that you don't want to do, but you know that you have to do, and start putting them in categories. I want to accomplish this, in the next couple of days, the next month, the next 3 months, the next year, whatever that looks like for you.
yeah.
And then the things that you're not that excited about, and that you really don't have to do, don't do it.
Yeah.
We also spoke a lot about saying no.
So boundaries.
Boundaries. which
Rocio's
is
favorite
my
word.
favorite.
How's that book coming along, by the way, that I got you?
It's a
So stay tuned because probably in the next couple of shows, we're going to recap a book that I had given Rocio on boundaries. It's really important to establish those and that was one of her things that she needed to work on. We all have something that continues and recycles over and over until we can really master that.
And definitely, not to get sidetracked too much, but I read the first chapter, and it was what the life of a woman who doesn't have any boundaries looks like. And I called Jennifer, and I was like, "Oh, they wrote this book about me."
My story.
This is me, yeah. But it was great. So so we talked about learning to say no. It's okay to say no. Sometimes we think when a friend invites us out, for dinner or to an event, or they want to collaborate, we feel bad saying no. But sometimes it's okay just saying, and it's learning how to say no.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's okay saying, my heart really says yes, but my schedule says no. I'm sorry. I'd love to. If there are other ways I can support you, I'm more than willing, but I don't have the time for it right now.
I think it's really important to understand the difference between what is urgent and what is important. And a lot of times the important things start to add up and help us pursue and get towards those dreams, those things that we really want to, but we keep pushing them off because we're getting sidetracked by friends, by loved ones. We don't want to disappoint them. We want to be there for everyone and do everything. And then all of a sudden burnout sets in. And so when you're trying to work on your project and move from that, corporate job or that 9 to 5 or whatever it is into entrepreneurship, you're burnt out, you're tired. So getting that on the calendar, scheduling it and sticking to that schedule and not being pulled away by other people, other distractions is really, really important.
Right.
What other final tip?
Another one was we did touch a little bit on why it takes people so much sometimes to accomplish certain tasks. And this is something that I also learned a while back, but it's not so much the task, it's not picking up the phone, because anyone can pick up the phone. It's the emotion that's tied to that. So for me, something I always struggled with picking up the phone, I'm a much better texter, or I used to be, was the anxiety that would build up just in contacting that person, or what that person would have to say, or maybe putting myself out there and risking hearing somebody saying no. So what that brought up for people. And so the tip that I kind of suggested, or that we spoke about, was allotting a certain amount of time for that task. So, it's even if you feel overwhelmed again by sitting down and working on a project that you've been putting off, give yourself a half hour. Just work on it a half hour. And, even if you feel somebody brought up, what if I'm very much in the moment? And, after I hit that half hour, but I want to keep going, what do I do? I suggested that they just stop, that they maybe just walk away in the beginning. I think for me, what happened was I really needed to practice that giving myself time, because I would obsess. If I found myself in the moment, there was a very fine line, and I would start obsessing about what it was I was working on, and 3 hours would pass by. And then I would feel frustrated because I let 3 hours pass by, and there were all these other things on my list. So, a lot came up for a lot of people, but I think the information that was shared was very valuable.
Yeah, it's not a cookie cutter approach, and I think that's one of the best things is we can actually customize it to you. So if you feel like you're hitting a block, or it was working for you one day, but now the next day it's not, well, things change, right? And your business model needs to change and adjust with you as well. So remember, we are here as a resource for you on that. Again, feel free to reach out, 847-903-3983. Or you can also email Jennifer@salesfromtheheart.com. And you can always get in touch with Rocio.
Rocio.
I almost called you Rocio. If I could only pronounce your last name correctly with the same accent, right? If you want to get in touch with Rocio, what's the best way to do that?
You can find me on Facebook, Rocio Vallejo. That's really the best way right now.
Just to get in touch with me, and then we'll get you connected with Rocio. Not Rosario, not Rocio, but...
and I could give you my number, but I won't.
Yeah, she's a little bit more covert, and she's staying focused and on track, right?
I have a question, Rocio,
Yes.
regarding these meetings that you have. Is it more of a supporting group, or is it more what anyone can go in one time and check it out,
That's
or
a
do
great
you have
question.
to participate or be a member?
Okay, so you don't have to be a member. It's just it's open to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so much a support group. I feel like sometimes when you say support groups, we just always keep talking about the same thing. It's really about progressing and moving forward in your business. So it's more about building a community. What I've found, especially being a creative business entrepreneur, is I didn't feel like there was any community. There was a community for business professionals, people that worked in corporate America, and there are tons of networking events for those people. But I didn't fit that mold or that demographic. And I found that there were a lot of creative business entrepreneurs that I knew that didn't feel like they had a community. So I was like, what the heck? Let's start.
Yeah.
So
how often, where do they find it?
So we meet the second Tuesday of every month. And we meet in Pilsen. It's a little cafe. It's actually a pretty big cafe, but it's called La Catrina. And we meet from 6:30 to 8 p.m.
Okay, great.
So, and if you connect with me on Facebook, I do post and share about it on Facebook. I also will be starting a closed Facebook group page. So, just reach out. We'll connect.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I think it's really important to establish these communities. We see and we hear that a lot, that people are out there, they kind of feel alone, or they don't know where other people are. And I think we got to see some of that unity a couple weeks ago at a safe haven in Chicago. That's where the event was held for women of faith from survival to revival. So, Nancy, do you want to share a little bit about your experience? And let's take it from the first point of, a lot of times people see these events, maybe they don't know who's going to be there, what it's going to be like. They see that it's an entire day on a weekend. It was from 9 to 4. And all these thoughts start to go through our heads to say, well, maybe I don't need to go, or maybe I'll go to the next one, or I'll make it seem like I'm going, but then I really don't go afterwards. I mean, right? I'm making fun of somebody over here.
I was sick. I was sick, and I had told Jennifer the night before, I don't think I'm going to go. And the next morning, she was like, you better get over here now.
Via text message, I said that. Actually, she did go to the other one, and I just like to have her there all the time because she shares some really beautiful stories and connects with a lot of people, and it was different than the other one. So why don't we share first a little bit about what do you think could come up for people, because you didn't make it to the first one, which we knew about.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So when it's incredible what she was mentioning about time. As soon as I was there, I was thinking, I had invited a couple of friends as well. And one of them, she just decided that she couldn't make it, or actually she said she wasn't able to make it. And I was thinking when I was there, I'm thinking, you just have to make the time. And
make a commitment, right?
It's not sometimes it's not an emotion decision. Sometimes you don't feel like it. You don't want to get up. You don't want. It's a Saturday. You don't want. But if we want to grow as individuals and professionally, I think it's a commitment you have to make to yourself, for our own good. I think anything that can teach you, that you can learn from, that can make you a better individual as a whole, I think we should take advantage of it. Of course, sometimes you're right. We have to know how to say no. When I was there, I'm like, I am meant to be here, and I'm glad I'm here. It hadn't started yet, and
what made you think that?
Because I was looking back at my schedule since the beginning of the year, and this is probably the first event that I was going to for the year. I usually go to different events at least once a month that helps my growth professionally, personally. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's already, March was the end of, it was March already, correct? 2 weeks ago? Or the end of February, and I have not.
End of February.
And I think we need that food. We need that information to keep growing, because, as you said, sometimes we're overwhelmed with work, with a lot of plans and
so you knew you were meant to be there. What kind of sparked that? What was different about being there and just being in that presence?
I think it's incredible, the fact that first of all, it's great when you meet with women. I think we need that environment, because you realize you're not on your own. I mean, you realize that we all have goals. We all want to accomplish certain, whatever it is. We also have hurdles like everyone else, and then you realize you are very blessed. Why? Because then you meet women that have had more challenges than you have, and sometimes we put ourselves in a victim mode, and you think you're the only one that has challenges or trouble or whatever it is.
I think that's a really good point. We actually had some feedback forms filled out, and one of the questions was, what is the number one problem or frustration in your life that you would like to be solved? And, there's no coincidence to hearing some of the similar patterns that kept coming through, right? Whether it was from financials to understanding and knowing my purpose, how to transition. This woman wrote how to transition from mom focus to businesswoman without neglecting your children in the midst of finding that peace. And she also wants to connect with other women who have been there and done that as well. We heard from some others dealing with anxiety, uncertainty. I think that's a big thing that can be placed on our shoulders all the time as well. Make their faith stronger than what it is now. Sometimes we get pulled away and we become what we call our own mini gods, trying to put everything on our shoulders.
Right. I do want to add that I think it's important for us to attend events like this. And these are specific types of events, I think, that really allow us to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because I think when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we really are truly opening ourselves up to growing. Mm-hmm. Because if we just, sometimes we're so good at putting on those masks or putting on this front that everything is perfect, but how can we really help one another, and how can we really grow if everything is great?
Well, I can tell you this much. If it was a few years ago and I would have seen the flyer for this event, I would have totally been put off because it was a Christian event, and I would have thought it would have been super preachy. People would be like, Jesus, Jesus, and I've been like, hold up, I don't know your Jesus like that.
Right.
I'm still trying to get rid of this hurt, this anger, this resentment, these things that I have in here, and everybody's saying, Jesus loves you. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Right? So what is your take on something like that? Because there's that fine line of, I'm not here, and I've said this many times, I'm not here to convince, convert, and condemn. What I am here, though, is to be bold in my testimony and my story and understand, like, hey, whatever you want to call it, and some people might be offended by that, especially maybe my conservative Christian friends. But we're not all there, right? And I'm not here to be anybody's savior. I think there's only one savior. And in order to connect, I think it's good to experience these different environments. And I know there were some ladies there. I mean, this woman said, what did she like most about the event? She said, everything. This is the first time in my life that I've been to something like this. And it was really powerful for her. So did you find that to be the case where, yes, there's obviously scripture reference and some other things, but what about the speakers that they shared? And again, this was a simulcast event, so we're watching some video on speakers that were at a live event, and then we were breaking out into discussions, some smaller group discussion, which we'll get to, and then some just with the entire group. So what were your thoughts on that?
It's interesting how the speakers were from every walks of life, and that is everyone can connect. Anyone, all the women in different stages, different ages, can connect to different speakers. And I think they were all fantastic. Knowing what they've been through, and like this, even though it was a reference more of God or Christ, Christian based, it's always helpful because it helps in your life. Period. I mean, regardless of what denomination, religion you believe in, it's based on growing as an individual. That's how I see it. And at the end of the day, we're called to serve. You serve in one or another way. And I think one of the that event, that's a way of serving and helping each other as women and supporting each other in our walk in life.
Yeah. And I think we experienced that, what you were saying, where people were being more transparent and vulnerable. And in the first event that we did, we did that just in front of the entire group, whoever wanted to share. And one lady came up to me afterwards and she said, I really wish I would have shared more, but I was a little hesitant. Maybe it's because there was a microphone there. And so the next event, she actually went to both. And she got to share within, not only with all of us, which we didn't have a microphone, it was a bit more intimate, but also in a group. So what did you find? Because I didn't participate in the little small group discussions since I was going around facilitating, but what was so powerful about that?
It's what they say. I'm going to go back to a little bit of history. From history before, women, men would go and out and go and get food for the women, and women would always get together and nurture their kids and as a group, as a community. And thinking about this event of women, that's part of who we are and how we connect. A group of women, because we go through the same stages, you can say, and I think we are comfortable with opening up with other women. And I think I mentioned at the end of the event that that portion of getting together in smaller groups, sometimes it can be intimidating to speak in front of the whole group of everyone. However, whenever we were separated into smaller groups, I think everybody, my group, I think it was 5 or 6 in each group. We were very open and in expressing what was going through our minds, what we liked about the speakers, how it was helping us to grow. And I think it's an opportunity, because sometimes we don't even do that with our families,
right? With
our sister siblings. Sometimes it's difficult to open up in that way. And it's easier to do it with a group of women that we are there for the same purpose. Right. To grow in every aspect in our lives.
Well, we touched on a couple things from some of the speakers. Maybe we can go through that, share a couple nuggets. This is an event that's live, that's spread out over 2 days. and we consolidated it down into a few hours in one day. And we mix it up so you're not just sitting there watching a screen the entire time, right? But did you feel the day went by relatively quickly, not so much?
And
or-
I'll tell you, when I thought, oh goodness, from 9 to 4, that's the whole day, right?
Yeah. That was my
And-
problem with it too.
Yes, and I was very surprised to find out that the day went by so quickly, and it was very pleasant. We had an opportunity to network in the morning. We were able to introduce ourselves, not in front of of the group, just talk to people, get to know where they're from, what do they do, their profession, how they were, they were there. I mean, how they found out about the event. So I was able to also network, pass out my business cards, and meet a couple of other great women. And we had an opportunity to mingle, have our coffee. What you do every morning, at least what I do every morning. And I think it made it more comfortable for everyone. And then we went into the simulcast. And it was, I thought it was going to be, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be sitting down for, what is it, 5 hours, 4 hours. And, but it wasn't bad at all. And we had breaks and the opportunity to share. I think even if you don't share in front of the group, someone else shares something. And I think that's amazing how a comment, a thought from someone can affect you personally or can help you. Maybe you don't want to say any in front of a group. However, if someone mentions something or talks about something, how that comment can impact your own life.
I mean, we had, somebody there that's in their early 20s sharing, very vulnerable, got up in front of the group, somebody that I know. So I invited her if she wanted to come up in front of the group, and just even seeing somebody else just share from that perspective allows you then to reach out. She had so many people come up to her afterwards and wanting to connect with her, being that resource, sharing, and prayers go a long way as well. Sometimes we think that's the last resort or the only thing that we can do, and it's really powerful. And she's been having some great successes that have happened from that, as well as some of the challenges that can come up. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think Chris Kane, I didn't like her when I saw her live, Christine Kane. She's really bold and in your face, and she can be just a little preachy, if you ask me. But I think that was actually one of the favorite speakers of the group.
She has a great story.
Mm-hmm. Is
Everything and anything that could have possibly happened to a person has happened to her.
I agree with you at the beginning. I'm like, oh my goodness, who is this woman? And I'm like, she needs to just tone it down a little bit. But it's impressive, her testimony, my goodness. Just her testimony alone will make you stop and think about your life, will make you
What do you remember what some of those things are that she shared from,
So she
cancer?
But she found out. She found out that she had been adopted in her 30s. She already had her own family. She found out that she and her brother were adopted.
First, it was her brother.
Yeah.
First, it was her brother.
Then the surprise came about herself.
A couple hours later, yes,
Yeah.
that she was also adopted. She had cancer of the throat.
Yep.
There's
been sexual abuse.
Abused her throughout her adolescent years. Yeah, shaming. Her testimony was
just her testimony alone. Then you're like, you know what? I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I am just so blessed. I mean, I can't even relate to all that. And that's when you realize all the issues, problems, challenges you have are nothing compared to what other people might be going through at the moment. I think one of her comments that I think we can use is don't let your make your future better than your past, and you don't let your past control your present or your future. And sometimes we become victims, and we always think of we are the way we are because of our past.
Right.
If you went through a difficult childhood or parents, whatever you went through, and then you blame that on your present and your future. And she was talking about her past and how terrible it was. It was just horrible, and how she never let that be a component in her present.
I think she said start from a place of victory, not living for a place of victory. And I think that was really powerful. And not to diminish if you've had some experiences maybe that weren't so traumatic, but they're still weighing on you. I think it's really good, though, where she's bold about it. And she says, stop making what someone has done to you bigger than what Jesus did for you. I think that's really powerful. And she said, you know what? If you can think your way out of it, then you don't need God. And God is really good at being God. And I think that's really important. I mean, you've heard my story on this, where I, for so long, tried to figure things out on my own, try to control on my own. Then finally one day, I couldn't handle it anymore, right? Your body will give out. The stress will kick in. You're starting to push away people and other opportunities that are in front of you. And you're just in this miserable, repetitive cycle.
I think the ongoing message, Christine Cane's message, and then the ongoing message, I think, throughout the entire simulcast or event was you can use the bad things that have happened in your life for good.
Yes.
Use what has happened to you, and there's a purpose. You really went through all of that for a reason. You are here to serve a greater purpose.
Yes.
So I think that's very powerful.
Yeah, actually, we have a little quote that I posted on Facebook actually just yesterday in an event group. We're having an event, Tony Robbins, trainer, and Tony Robbins is going to be here in Chicago this year, and I went a couple years ago, and it was great. And he said the exact same thing. All of those tribulations and things have led to where he is today. If you want more information on that, again, just make sure that you connect with me or connect with me on Facebook as well, and we'll get you those workshop info. And but I think that's it. Lisa Turkhurst was another one where she was talking about that. Being in a state of stress and overwhelm. And she says, when a woman lives with the stress of an overwhelmed schedule, she'll ache with the sadness of an underwhelmed soul. So powerful.
Yes.
I thought that was a very, very good point. And, again, confusing that command to love with the disease to please. Sometimes we're over trying to please everyone, trying to be that for everyone. And we can get a little overwhelmed. So who else did you like? I know there were a few others. Lisa Harper. There was Patsy Claremont, an older woman that just has some great style about her and wit. She's really funny. We shared a different one, and we actually shared a guy speaker, Pete Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting turn. I think it was great that you had a guy. I mean, we are fantastic, of course, but I think it was great that we had a guy's perspective, a guy's opinion. And he was talking about when we ask ourselves, why me? Why, when we go through difficult situations and you ask yourself, why me? And sometimes that adversity is part of a plan.
Yeah.
It's part of a better plan. And rather than asking why me, like I've learned before, you ask, for what? What am I supposed to learn from this? What is this for? How am I supposed to learn or grow from it? So I thought that was interesting.
Well, there's so many more points, and I know we cut Pete Wilson out of the first one, so you didn't get to hear him. Yeah. And we had it slightly different for the second one. And of course, the next one coming up on Saturday, I believe it's March 21st. Make sure that you reach out. We're going to have even more discussion, more powerful little nuggets for you. And I'd like to leave you with this. Pete Wilson said this: what would you do if you were absolutely confident that God is with you? Right? We probably wouldn't hold back from going to meet with somebody or an event or putting out there and going on a trip with a complete stranger that you meet on Facebook.
Exactly. Now,
within reason, okay? Be safe out there. So if you connect with me on Facebook, don't think that I'm going to just take a road trip with you. But, I think that's really important. So what would you do if you were absolutely confident that God is with you? I think that's a good thing to remember, right?
Definitely.
Taking that leap of faith and knowing that it's within here. It's not always about, oh, well, I don't go to church, or I don't say my prayers, and I don't do this, and I don't do that. God is a loving God and there to support you as well as us. We each have something unique to give, and so do you. So make sure that you continue to share that blessing. Any last minute words here, ladies?
I just want to end it with something that also Chris Kane mentioned: walk in freedom. And whatever that freedom means to you, walk in freedom, whether it be letting go of fear, of your past, of pain. just walk in freedom.
Yeah.
And I think what is just coming up for me right now is Lisa
Turkers.
She had mentioned go where wise. If you want to be a wise woman, you have to go where wise women go. So definitely go to events like this.
Yeah. All right. We'll definitely see you at a few. Many blessings to you.
Bye,
Mwah.
everyone.
Ciao.
Yay!